Assalamu alaikum, sir.
Salam wabarakatuh. How is how's the
My life is
lighting?
good, sir. My life is good, sir.
Good. I'm ready.
Sir, you can start program?
Yes, we can start.
Okay, sir.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله فأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله لا نبي بعده صلوات الله وسلامه عليه وعلى آله وصحابته وكل من تبع هداه واستمسك بسنته إلى يوم الدين وبعد. And welcome back again to our program, My American Jihad, with me, Imam Shamsi Ali. In today's episode, I still wanted to continue our talk on moderation in Al-Islam. And I'd like to emphasize once again on one important aspect, and that is the importance of tolerance, as-samha, in Al-Islam. And the reason why I'm choosing this topic once again, and apparently a repetition because we had mentioned this earlier, because there is an issue now is being heatedly discussed by many around us. And that issue is about the conversion of Hagia Sophia by the government of Turkey into a mosque. As you know that Hagia Sophia is a very historic building. It was in the beginning built for Christians by Byzantium, and then later on was taken over by Roman Christians, and afterwards changed into once again into the Byzantium Christians. And during the conquest of Istanbul by Sultan Muhammad al-Fatih II, the building was taken over. According to what we have read, there are two possibilities. There are some people who say that the building was purchased by the Sultan Muhammad Fatih II. He purchased it, he bought it, and then he gave it to the Muslim community as a waqf, as an endowment, to be turned or to be converted into a mosque. Now, if this was the case, then there is no single person has the right to say. Because as we do in America, by the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we have purchased many buildings or churches even to be converted into mosques by the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Alhamdulillah, many of our Muslim brothers have purchased and bought Muslim churches and converted into mosques. And of course, this is legally justified because we purchased it. It's about transaction. So if it was the case of Hagia Sophia at that time, that Al-Fatih, the Sultan, bought it from the Christian community and then gave it as a waqf endowment to the Muslim community to be converted to a mosque, then why people still talk about it? There is not an issue. There's an absolute right of the Muslim community to turn this building into a mosque because that is a waqf from the Al-Fatih, the Sultan at that time. The question here is why people are talking when Hagia Sophia is converted to a mosque by the Turkish government simply because they feel that this building belongs to them and under their authority. Of course, we Muslims from around the world can be happy and must be happy with that. Is there any Muslims doesn't feel happiness that an historic building is turned into a masjid once again? Of course, emotionally speaking, it is a pride, something that is make us proud. But there are some discussion here. And the first discussion that I would like to underline, and I'm sorry to mention this in a little bit harsh way, that hypocrisy and nifaq, hypocrisy oftentimes happens in people's stand when they face certain issues. How many masajid in the past, how many mosques in the past that have been taken over by others? Either it is destroyed or they turn it into other functions. How many masajid that have been turned into either churches or nightclubs in Spain after the Christian took over once again Spain from the Muslim power at that time? Recently, or basically a few years back, the Babri Mosque, for example, in India was destroyed. And the point why I mention this because we don't see the world as so busy in discussing and talking about it. Almost everybody chose to be silent. But when a single building, a museum, which is originally a mosque, turned back into a mosque, almost everybody is talking about. This is what I call hypocrisy in our stand, that we are not honest unto it. Brothers and sisters, when you talk about tolerance, when you talk about fairness, when you talk about justice, then we have to be just and fair and honest. It is simply impossible for you to talk about honesty, justice, and fairness when you are not fair and just and you are not honest to yourselves. That sometimes you want to serve your interests by upholding those beautiful values, tolerance, moderations, and so on and so forth. So once again, my point here that building had been turned into the masajid and people are talking. And of course, coming back to our internally speaking as Muslims, I think there are some issues that need to be tackled. Number one, we want to make sure that the building was originally purchased by Sultan Muhammad II Al-Fatih. If that is the issue that we Muslims, and I'm sure the others as well, have no right to talk about it. It's been bought, it's personally owned by Al-Fatih, and then given, the building was given to the Muslim community to turn into a church. So no one has the right to discuss and to object unto it. But let's say it was not bought, it was not purchased by Al-Fatih. And the issue here is for the Muslim community to discuss, and of course that is our right to discuss about our faith. Either it is justified for the Muslim conquerors, when we conquer a city, when we conquer a balad, when you conquer, let's say, a place, a locality, is it justified to take the houses of worship as a part of that booty, what they call in Arabic language al-ghanima? Indeed, this question is necessary to be answered by our scholars, and we need to discuss about it. Some scholars say that it is justified to take over others' house of worship as a part of ganimat, as a part of booty in war. If there is no treaty being made between the conquerors, let's say in this regard is Al-Fatih, and the Byzantium Christians, if there is no agreement, there is no treaty have been made between the two sides, and then the houses of worship can be taken. And it is just a normal thing happens in any war. But some other scholars say, based on some principles in our teaching, for example, based on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saying in the Quran, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم, لا إكراها في الدين, there is no compulsion in the religion. And therefore, when a Muslims enter into any place to take over that place, Muslims have no right to force those people to become a Muslim. And I think we still remember the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam when he entered into Makkah al-Mukarramah, that he did not force the Makkans to become a Muslim. This is the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in taking a place, in conquering any place, that he did not force any person to become a Muslim. Now, logically speaking, if the people in that area are not forced to become a Muslim, so they remain, let's say, Christians, is it morally justified and can be accepted even legally to take over their houses of worship? This issue, my brothers and sisters, is deeply in need of answer and response. But when you go back to the practices of the earlier Muslims, including Umar Allahu anhu, for example, when he conquered the Ardu Sham, the Sham, and that is Syria, Jordan, and Palestine. Umar Allahu anhu was the Khalifa at the time, he's the second Caliph of the Muslims, and his commander took over those places. They conquered easily those places. What we read from the history, this is very solid, written and recorded in our history, that the Muslim did not take over the church. Umar Allahu anhu, for example, went to Jerusalem from Medina al-Munawwara, and he did not take over the church. He did not take over the synagogues. The Muslim commander in Syria, for example, did not touch the salib or the cross. So my point here that based on the Quran, based on the practices of the earlier Sahaba, I think I incline into a conclusion that when we conquer one place, it is not justified for the Muslim to take over the houses of worship unless that you bought it or you purchase it from the owners, as Al-Fatih did in Byzantium at that time. Brothers and sisters, especially that we are living in a very different moment, in a very different time. We are living in the 21st century where human rights declaration have been declared by the United Nations. But more importantly, I would like to underline this point. We are at war. This war is not war of atoms or nuclear war. Our war is about a war of perception. With all justified rights for the Turkish government to convert this building, we Muslims in the West particularly, we have to take this into our consideration that once again, people are going to use this as an opportunity to attack our faith, to attack our religion. That Islam, when they become powerful, when they become majority, they are going to take over our churches. They are going to take over our houses of worship. And we have to make it clear that inshallah, Islamically speaking, Islam does not allow Muslims to take over the house of worship of others. And therefore, if you see, my brothers and sisters, and I just wanted to end with this, the historical evidence, the places that are being conquered by Muslims and the places were conquered by non-Muslims, Take, for example, the Middle East and Spain. When the Muslims took over Spain, the Muslims built a lot of beautiful masajid. We know that. When the Christians came over and took it over from the Muslims, they turned all churches either into church or all masajid either into churches or nightclubs. But look what the Muslims did in the Middle East. The beautiful, fanciest, great churches are still remains in those places. And that's why you see beautiful churches in the Middle East, because Muslims did not take them over. And it is a guarantee by al-Islam, alhamdulillah. So my point here, that as people are discussing, as people are talking about the conversion of Hagia Sophia into a masjid, and they are going to use this an opportunity to accuse once again Islam as a religion. When they are becoming powerful, they are going to take over the churches. We say that inshaAllah ta'ala Islam remains the most tolerant faith. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide us and strengthen us. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala open our minds so that we can see the truth and we can convey the truth to other people. And this is our jihad in America, to make sure that everyone should not or must not misunderstand our faith. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.